Most people think negotiation is about finding the perfect sentence. It's not, because when the pressure hits, you don't rise to the perfect script. You fall to the level you've trained. A recruiter says, "This is our best offer," and suddenly you forget every salary tip you watched. A landlord says, "I have 3 other people interested," and you stop asking about fees. A salesperson says, "This deal ends today," and a bad decision starts feeling urgent. That is the hidden game. They are not just listening to your words. They are watching what pressure turns you into. And in this video, I'm going to show you the 8 levels of negotiation skill, from the person who says yes too fast, to the person who becomes almost impossible to rush, guilt, flatter, or scare into a bad deal. And be honest as you watch. Because most people think they're at level 5 or 6, until one uncomfortable conversation drops them right back to level 1. Level 1, you say yes too fast. At level 1, your negotiation strategy is simple. End the discomfort as quickly as possible. You are not saying yes because the deal is good. You are saying yes because the silence feels dangerous. The pushback feels personal. The idea of disappointing someone feels heavier than the cost of agreeing. This is the people pleaser level. A manager says, "This is the best we can do right now," and you instantly say, "No worries, I understand." A landlord says, "We need the deposit today or we'll move to the next applicant," and you rush to send the money before asking what fees are included. A salesperson says, "This price is only available if you sign today," and your body starts reacting before your brain has time to think. But here's the part most people miss. The real problem is not that you said yes. The real problem is that you said yes before you found out what the yes would cost you. At this level, pressure does not even have to be strong. It just has to be slightly uncomfortable. And because you want the conversation to feel safe again, you give the other person what they want. Psychologically, this comes from conflict avoidance. Your nervous system treats negotiation like danger. So instead of protecting your interests, you try to protect the relationship, the mood, or the other person's opinion of you. And over time, this becomes expensive. You accept lower pay. You pay fees you could have questioned. You let unclear terms slide. You become the person everyone knows they can rush. And the worst cost is not financial. It is identity. Every fast yes teaches you, my comfort matters less than their approval. The upgrade move is simple but powerful. Never answer under pressure. When someone asks for a decision, say, "Let me look this over and get back to you." That one sentence creates space. Space is where your real judgment comes back. So the rule of level 1 is simple. Never give pressure an instant yes. Because level 2 begins the moment you realize you do not have to accept everything exactly as it is. You can ask. Level 2, you ask for a small discount. At level 2, something changes. You still feel nervous. You still want to be liked. But for the first time, you realize the price in front of you might not be the final price. So you ask. Not boldly, not strategically. Carefully. A little too carefully. You call your internet provider and say, "Is there any chance you have a small discount available?" You see a credit card late fee and ask, "Would it maybe be possible to waive this one time?" You're buying furniture, a phone plan, or a used car, and you say, "Do you think you could take a little bit off?" This is progress. Most people never even ask. But here's the trap. At level 2, you are not really negotiating yet. You are hoping to be liked while asking for less. Your voice still sounds like you are apologizing for having needs. You ask for a discount, but you make it emotionally easy for the other person to say no, and they can feel that. They can feel when your request has no weight behind it. Psychologically, this level is about permission seeking. You are no longer completely passive, but you are still treating the other person as the authority and yourself as the exception. You are not saying, "Here is the value I need." You are saying, "Please don't be mad that I asked." And that keeps your leverage small. The cost of staying here is that you get crumbs when better terms were possible. Maybe they waive a $25 fee, but you never ask about the monthly rate. Maybe they drop the price by $100, but you never compare it to another offer. Maybe your boss gives you a tiny bump, and you feel grateful for something that was still below market. Most people are stuck at level 2 and don't even know it. The upgrade move is to make your ask specific. Instead of saying, "Can you do any better?" say, "I'm looking for a monthly total closer to $180. What options do we have to get there?" Specific asks sound different. They tell the other person you are not just hoping. You are thinking. The rule of level 2. Ask with a target, not an apology. And once you start thinking before reacting, you reach level 3. You pause before answering. Level 3. You pause before answering. Level 3 looks almost too simple. You stop filling the silence. That's it. But this is where negotiation starts to become emotional control instead of emotional reaction. At level 1, pressure makes you say yes. At level 2, pressure makes you ask politely. At level 3, pressure hits you, and you do not immediately move. A recruiter says, "We need your answer by the end of the day." A car dealer says, "If you leave, I can't guarantee this price." A landlord says, "There are 3 other people interested." And instead of rushing, explaining, apologizing, or negotiating against yourself, you pause. Not forever, just long enough to let your nervous system catch up with your brain. Because here's what most people miss. The first answer you want to give under pressure is usually not your best answer. It is your anxiety trying to escape the moment. Silence feels awkward because it removes the other person's control over your rhythm. They expect you to react. They expect you to defend yourself. They expect you to make the next concession just to keep the conversation comfortable. But when you pause, the game slows down, and the person who can slow the conversation down usually starts making better decisions. Psychologically, the pause breaks automatic compliance. It gives you time to notice what is happening inside you. Am I afraid this offer will disappear? Am I trying to be liked? Am I agreeing because this is good or because this is uncomfortable? That tiny gap changes everything. The cost of not having this skill is that you become predictable. People learn that if they create urgency, you will respond quickly. If they sound disappointed, you will soften. If they go quiet, you will start giving things away. At level 3, you stop negotiating against yourself. Your upgrade move is to use one calm sentence before every important answer. Let me think about that for a moment. Then actually pause. Breathe. Look at the numbers. Let the silence do its job. The rule of level 3. Silence is where control comes back. Because once you can pause, you can do something even more powerful. You can stop relying on memory, promises, and good intentions. At level 4, you ask for written terms. Level 4, you ask for written terms. At level 4, you learn a painful truth. If a deal only exists in someone's memory, it can disappear the moment it becomes inconvenient. This is where calm conversations become dangerous. Because in the moment, everything sounds clear. The landlord says, "Parking is included." The recruiter says, "We'll review your salary after 6 months." The contractor says, "That extra work shouldn't cost much." The salesperson says, "Don't worry, we'll take care of that." And because they sound reasonable, you want to believe them. But later, the bill arrives. The fee appears. The raise never happens. The promise becomes blurry. And now you are not negotiating the deal anymore. You are negotiating someone's memory. That is why level 4 matters. At this level, you stop treating verbal promises like protection. You understand that good intentions are not the same as clear terms. Psychologically, this level is about reducing ambiguity. Ambiguity feels comfortable during the conversation because it avoids tension. Nobody has to get specific. Nobody has to slow down. Nobody has to confront the details. But ambiguity usually helps the person with more power. If the terms are unclear, they can interpret them later in the way that benefits them most. That does not always mean they are lying. Sometimes people forget. Sometimes policies change. Sometimes the person who made the promise is not the person who sends the bill. But the result is the same. You are exposed. The cost of staying below this level is expensive confusion. You move into an apartment thinking one thing, then discover extra monthly fees. You accept a job offer based on a vague future promise. You agree to freelance work, then the client keeps adding small changes. You buy something because of what someone said, not because of what the agreement actually says. If they can say it out loud, but refuse to write it down, that is not a small detail. That is information. The upgrade move is simple. Before you agree, ask for the terms in writing. Say, "Could you send me that in writing so I can review the full terms?" Or after a call, email, just confirming what we discussed. Monthly rent is $2,000, parking is included, and the move-in fee is waived. Please confirm if that's correct before I submit the application. This is not rude. This is adult communication. Because once the terms are written down, the conversation changes. You are no longer relying on charm. You are relying on clarity. The rule of level 4. If it matters, get it in writing. Level 5. You compare offers. Level 5 is where you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "What does the market say?" This is a major shift, because before this level, negotiation still feels personal. If they say no, you feel rejected. If they push back, you feel uncomfortable. If they offer a small improvement, you feel grateful. But at level 5, you bring reality into the room. You compare. You don't just take the first insurance quote. You get 3. You don't accept the first job offer because the recruiter sounds nice. You check the salary range, benefits, bonus structure, and competing opportunities. You don't let one car dealer tell you, "This is the best price in the area." You look at other dealerships, other listings, and the total out-the-door price. And this is where the spell breaks. When you only have one option, every conversation feels heavier. Every delay feels like rejection. Every deadline feels like a threat. You are not evaluating the deal anymore. You are protecting your hope. But when you have options, your nervous system calms down. You are not begging one door to open. You are deciding which door is worth walking through. Psychologically, level 5 is about shifting from approval-seeking to evidence-based decision-making. You are no longer trying to convince someone to be fair. You are showing that you understand the market. That makes your voice steadier, not louder, steadier. The cost of staying below this level is that you negotiate blind. You might think a salary is generous because it is more than your last job. You might think a rent price is normal because the apartment looks nice. You might think a loan offer is reasonable because the monthly payment sounds affordable. But without comparison, you do not know if you are getting a fair deal. You only know what they told you. The upgrade move is simple. Before any important agreement, collect at least 2 other reference points, 2 other quotes, 2 other listings, 2 other offers, 2 other prices. Then say, "I'm comparing a few options right now. If you can match this total value, I'd be happy to keep the conversation going." That sentence is powerful because it is calm, specific, and not desperate. The rule of level 5. A good deal survives comparison. And once you have options, you can finally do what level 1 was terrified of. You can walk away. Level 6, you walk away calmly. Level 6 is the moment you stop negotiating like the deal is oxygen. You can want the offer. You can like the apartment. You can need the job. You can respect the other person. But you no longer act like losing this deal would destroy you. That is the shift. At this level, you do not storm out. You do not threaten. You do not try to win by being cold. You simply become willing to leave a bad deal on the table. A car dealer keeps adding fees after you already discussed the price. You say, "That total doesn't work for me." If it changes, feel free to reach out. A landlord rushes you to apply before answering basic questions. You say, "I'm not comfortable moving forward without the full cost in writing." A company gives you an offer below your minimum and says, "This is all we can do." You say, "I appreciate the offer, but I don't think this is the right fit at those terms." And then you stop talking. That silence is not weakness. That silence is a boundary. The moment you can walk away, the negotiation changes. Psychologically, this level is about detachment. Not because you do not care, but because you are no longer controlled by the fear of loss. People can pressure you when they believe you need the deal more than they do. But when you are calm enough to leave, they have to ask themselves a different question. Are we willing to lose this person? That question creates respect. Not always agreement, but respect. The cost of staying below level 6 is that your standards become flexible under pressure. You accept bad terms because you already imagined yourself in the apartment. You take underpaid work because you already pictured yourself getting the title. You sign the contract because you do not want to start over. That is how desperation becomes expensive. The upgrade move is to decide your walkaway point before the conversation gets emotional. Know your minimum salary. Know your maximum monthly payment. Know which fees are unacceptable. Know what terms must be in writing. Then say, if we can't get to those terms, I'll have to pass. Calmly. No drama. No apology. Because walking away is not rejection. It is selection. The rule of level 6. Standards only become real when you can walk away. And once you can walk away, you unlock the next level of leverage. You stop chasing one offer. You make the other side compete. Level 7. You make the other side compete. Level 5 is when comparison protects you from a bad decision. Level 7 is when comparison starts changing their behavior. Level 7 is where you stop asking one person to be generous. You create a situation where being better is in their interest. This is advanced leverage. Not because you become aggressive. Because you stop treating one offer like your only chance. At level 7, you do not say, please give me more. You say, here are the options I'm comparing. A company offers you $82,000. Another company is at $90,000 with better remote flexibility. So instead of begging, you say, I'm excited about this role, but I'm also comparing another offer with stronger compensation. If we can get closer to that range, this would be much easier for me to accept. A lender gives you one rate. You bring another lender's quote. A contractor gives you a high estimate. You show that you are reviewing 2 other bids. A landlord refuses to adjust rent. You mention comparable units with lower total monthly costs. This is where most people get scared. They think comparison sounds rude. But done correctly, it is not rude. It is context. Psychologically, level 7 works because people value what others also want. When you have no alternatives, the other side can treat you like a captive buyer. But when they know other credible options exist, they have to compete for your yes. And that changes your identity. You are no longer the person waiting to be chosen. You are the person choosing. But here's the part most people miss. You must be honest. Fake leverage is dangerous. Do not invent offers. Do not bluff with numbers you cannot support. Do not threaten just to sound powerful. Real leverage is clean. It comes from actual options, clear standards, and calm communication. The cost of staying below this level is that every negotiation depends on the other person's kindness. Maybe they improve the offer. Maybe they don't. Maybe they feel generous. Maybe they sense your attachment and hold firm. At level 7, you stop relying on generosity. Your upgrade move is to build competition before you need it. Apply to more than one job. Get more than one quote. Talk to more than one provider. Compare more than one apartment. Then say, I'm deciding between a few options. What's the best total value you can offer? That one question forces the conversation to move from pressure to value. And if you don't have another offer yet, level 7 doesn't mean pretending you do. It means you stop making one option your entire plan. The rule of level 7. Real leverage is built before the conversation. And once you can create competition without becoming desperate, level 8 becomes possible. You become impossible to pressure. Level 8, you become impossible to pressure. Level 8 is not when you become the loudest person in the room. It is when pressure stops changing who you are. The final test is not when someone is rude to you. It's when they are nice, when they sound disappointed, when they make you feel unreasonable for asking for basic clarity. This is the highest level because you are no longer controlled by rush, guilt, scarcity, flattery, fear, or artificial deadlines. Someone says, you need to decide today. You say, if I need to decide before reviewing the full terms, the answer is no. Someone says, most people would be grateful for this offer. You say, I understand. I still need the terms to work for me. Someone says, we have other people interested. You say, that makes sense. I'm also reviewing other options. Notice what changed. You are not attacking. You are not begging. You are not explaining your worth to someone committed to undervaluing it. You are calm because your identity is no longer attached to their approval. Psychologically, level 8 is self-regulation plus standards. You can feel the pressure without obeying it. You can hear disappointment without rushing to fix it. You can recognize urgency without letting it hijack your judgment. This is why you become difficult to manipulate, not because you are suspicious of everyone, but because you no longer abandon yourself just to keep the conversation comfortable. The old version of you needed the other person to stay pleased. The level 8 version of you needs the agreement to be clear, fair, and aligned with your standards. That shift changes everything. A recruiter cannot rush you into a bad offer. A dealer cannot trap you with monthly payment games. A landlord cannot hide vague fees behind urgency. A client cannot expand the project without updating the scope. A company cannot replace compensation with compliments. And this is the emotional payoff of the entire journey. You stop negotiating from fear. You start negotiating from self-respect. The cost of never reaching this level is subtle but heavy. You may still make money. You may still get opportunities. But you keep feeling like your life is shaped by other people's pressure. At level 8, that ends. Your upgrade move is to build a personal negotiation standard before the pressure arrives. Ask yourself, what terms must be clear before I say yes? What number actually works for me? What behavior is a red flag? What am I no longer willing to tolerate? Because the strongest negotiator is not the person who can force others to say yes. It is the person who cannot be forced into betraying themselves. The rule of level 8. Pressure can exist without being in charge. That is the real power player. And that is your life at every level of negotiation skill. At level 1, pressure makes you say yes. At level 2, pressure makes you ask small. At level 3, pressure meets silence. At level 4, pressure meets written terms. At level 5, pressure meets comparison. At level 6, pressure meets your walkaway point. At level 7, pressure meets competition. And at level 8, pressure meets someone who no longer abandons themselves to keep the peace. That is the real skill. Because negotiation was never just about saving a little money. It was about the kind of person you become when someone puts pressure on you. The goal is not to win every negotiation. The goal is to stop losing yourself in them. Before you leave, comment your level. Just the number. No explanation needed. Level 1 if you say yes too fast. Level 3 if you're learning to pause. Level 5 if you're starting to compare offers. Level 8 if pressure still shows up, but it no longer controls you. And if you're not sure, comment the level that made you uncomfortable, because that is usually the level you need to upgrade next. And if this video made you realize you've been negotiating from fear instead of self-respect, subscribe.